Sean Diddy Combs, one of hip-hop's most legendary moguls, sat silently in a Brooklyn courtroom awaiting the decision that would define his legacy. After weeks of explosive testimonies and controversial evidence, everyone held their breath as the jury returned with its verdict. In a stunning twist, Diddy was found not guilty on the most severe allegations, 2 counts related to exploiting individuals and 1 charge of organized criminal activities. These alarming accusations could have meant decades behind bars, but somehow Diddy managed to dodge the worst of it. But before his supporters could even breathe a sigh of relief, the jury delivered another blow. He was convicted on 2 counts linked to the unlawful transport of individuals across state lines for illicit activities. Although less severe than the initial charges, these convictions still painted a dark, disturbing picture of the once celebrated icon. And here's where things got even stranger. Barely an hour into deliberations, drama erupted behind closed doors. Jurors suddenly requested the judge to admonish juror number 25 for apparently refusing to follow instructions. It doesn't take an expert to guess what that means. 11 jurors likely leaning toward acquittal, with just 1 holding firm. So while Diddy dodged life-shattering charges, he wasn't quite off the hook, and what happened next in that courtroom would shock even his closest supporters. Immediately following the mixed verdict, Diddy's legal team jumped into action. They urgently asked the judge to release him on a $1 million bail, arguing passionately that he posed no risk and deserved freedom while awaiting sentencing and appeal. His lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, even made a deeply emotional appeal highlighting that Diddy's children, including his twin daughters who already tragically lost their mother, Kim Porter, were sitting in the courtroom desperately waiting to take their father home. But prosecutors weren't having any of it. They argued firmly that releasing Diddy posed a genuine threat, emphasizing not just the seriousness of his recent conviction, but also his alarming potential violence. Prosecutors painted a vivid picture of a man capable of danger and flight, stressing the necessity of keeping him behind bars. It quickly became clear this wasn't just a routine bail request. It was a high-stakes battle for freedom, reputation, and legacy. As tensions rose inside the courtroom, the judge prepared to deliver a decision that would shake the room to its core. Judge Arun Subramanian's ruling was swift, decisive, and harsh. Bail was denied. The judge declared openly he had failed miserably to prove he was not a danger to the community, directly referencing disturbing evidence from the trial itself. He pointed specifically to the Cassie video, which vividly showcased troubling acts of domestic violence, acts the judge reminded everyone were acknowledged by Diddy's own defense team. And that wasn't all. The judge also brought up a recent disturbing incident involving Diddy and a woman known only as Jane. It happened in June 2024, months after federal agents raided Diddy's properties in March. The judge emphasized how troubling this was. After federal scrutiny, most people would have been on their best behavior, but not Diddy. Instead, he was involved in another violent confrontation, demonstrating a blatant disregard for the law and reinforcing fears about his violent tendencies. The mood in the courtroom instantly darkened. Any chance of freedom, at least temporarily, had evaporated for Diddy. His defense team stood stunned, his supporters visibly shaken. Suddenly, reality hit hard. Sean Combs wasn't going home to Miami's luxurious Star Island mansion. He was headed straight back to his cold cell in a Brooklyn jail. And if that wasn't enough, the real fight, his sentencing, was still yet to come. In court, Diddy's lawyer fought back aggressively, insisting the incident was entirely misunderstood and that Diddy was merely acting in self-defense. Yet the judge and prosecutors didn't buy it. To them, it was more proof that this music legend posed a genuine risk, not only to others, but possibly even to himself. The situation couldn't have been clearer. Diddy had painted himself into a dangerous corner, and now he had nowhere left to hide. When Judge Subramanian delivered his decision to deny bail, you could almost feel the air sucked out of the courtroom. Diddy, who moments earlier had seemed hopeful, slumped back in disbelief. Instead of heading to Miami's luxurious Star Island, his lavish home and symbol of his former glory, he was now facing a harsh reality: indefinite confinement in Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. For a man accustomed to luxury and power, this was more than just a setback. It was a crushing blow to everything he represented. Diddy had managed to avoid decades behind bars on the most severe charges, but his troubles were far from over. Even his supporters had to acknowledge the stark truth. His carefully crafted image was now irreparably shattered. But while the courtroom was still reeling, an even bigger battle loomed just ahead. The sentencing guidelines remained unclear, and the potential consequences were alarming. Would Diddy face a short stint behind bars, or could his conviction lead to years locked away from the world? As the prosecution and defense geared up for an intense showdown, it was becoming painfully clear that this story was far from over, and the worst might still be yet to come. With bail now off the table, attention shifted immediately to the upcoming sentencing, and here the battle between Diddy's defense team and prosecutors got fierce. His lawyers argued passionately for leniency, insisting that, according to federal guidelines, Diddy's sentence should start at around 21 months. They highlighted his previously clean criminal record and pointed to his decades of philanthropic efforts, arguing that his conviction shouldn't overshadow his positive contributions. Prosecutors, on the other hand, were ruthless. They argued for a far harsher penalty, 51 months or even longer, emphasizing the gravity of Diddy's actions and his disturbing pattern of behavior. To them, Diddy wasn't just a celebrity who'd made mistakes, he represented someone who'd consistently abused his influence and wealth. Judge Supermanian, recognizing the urgency of the situation, initially set sentencing for October 3, but given the tension and media frenzy surrounding the case, he signaled he might expedite sentencing. A critical hearing was swiftly scheduled for July 8th, amplifying pressure and suspense even further. For Diddy, the next few days would define his future. Would he be granted mercy? Or would the judge use him as an example, delivering a sentence harsh enough to make headlines worldwide? The once untouchable Sean Diddy Combs, known globally as a music mogul, producer, and legendary entrepreneur, is now facing a devastating downfall. This conviction wasn't just a legal problem, it had torn apart the carefully constructed image he'd spent decades building. From the days of Bad Boy Records, where he dominated charts and shaped hip-hop history, to his ventures into fashion, television, and alcohol brands, Diddy had always been celebrated as the ultimate symbol of success. But now, all of that success felt tainted. Fans and critics alike were grappling with difficult questions. Could they still enjoy his music without feeling conflicted? Would brands continue to associate with a figure now legally declared dangerous? As debates ignited across social media, it became clear that Diddy's legacy had changed forever. Gone were the days when he could simply rely on his charm and charisma to smooth things over. Now he had to face the reality of his actions, and what remained was a tarnished empire, shattered trust, and an uncertain future. With bail denied and sentencing imminent, Sean Diddy Combs sits behind bars, his career, reputation, and legacy hanging in the balance. What happens next won't just affect him, but the entire entertainment world. So what does this shocking turn of events truly mean for the legacy of one of hip-hop's most iconic figures? Will history remember him as a visionary or a villain? Only time and the judge's final decision will tell.